Well, welcome to the Scars Podcast, where we have an awesome guest, Major Ed Pulido, Army retired, Purple Heart recipient. I can't tell you how excited I am to have you here. You've been one of my best friends for the last 8 years. You've helped me along the way, along many, many others. Not only did you help us overseas, this great country, but you've helped us on this land. You continue to do it through fundraising for veterans and their resources that they need desperately. I think you've raised somewhere, we were talking about over $200 million in your career.
Yeah.
And that's astonishing because what people don't know, when I first met you, I went to one of your events, and Ty will second this, my son, and Caden, my other son, that it's almost like you get chills because it's so real what you've done for this country and your passion for your brothers and sisters in arms and first responders, those that put on a uniform to protect us. You can feel it in you and in the passion you get up every day to and I love your statement, what a great day to be an American. I mean, what day is not a great day to be an American?
Yeah.
Ed, tell me what's been going on, man. Well, I know you're on fire right now and you're retooling. I feel like you're in phase 3 of where you're going, and I think this third phase is going to be phenomenal.
Well, first of all, what a great day to be an American, and what a great day to celebrate the love that we have for God, for family, for country. Saying it the way that I've been asked to say it, in the sense that those are the ways to deliver that message of hope and opportunity, and to give back and to pay it forward. And those guiding principles is what guides our lives each and every day. And it guides the work that I'm doing. When you say this is the amount of money that we've been able to raise, it's been a collective effort with a lot of great people, a lot of great teamwork, but a lot of great passion and purpose for what we're trying to do. And I got to tell you that this room that we're in today is a room of faith, of understanding that, you know what, that's what drives America. That's what drives the world. That's what drives our purpose. That's what drove our founding fathers. Yep. When you're over here complaining and changing things and taking away from historical value, like what's going on with the Cracker Barrel, you know, I'm just amazed at the fact that, you know what, sometimes no matter what the historical aspects of positive or negative are, that's what's built us to get us to where we're at today. And that faith has driven us. And no one is even talking about the fact that from a historical standpoint, that the good Lord has been with this country. And that is why I say what a great day to be an American every day, because it is about our faith for love of God. And again, for the love that we have for our families, to make sure that they're taken care of. And then also to live in a grateful nation. So when we look at the red, white, and blue, we understand that we have a flag that stands for freedom.
Well, you know, I think that whole Cracker Barrel saga that's going on right now, it just really epitomizes something I want you to reflect on and talk about. But I think to myself, you know, I look at that and I say, well, what was wrong with the way it was? It was American history. It was historical for the greatness of America, all the things they had on the wall, things like that. And I got to tell you, when I went in there to eat breakfast, I had all kinds of people sitting around me, all kinds of backgrounds. They all were enjoying their meal. Everybody was smiling. It was a very comfortable place, almost like a place I remember, you know, when I was a kid. Like, everybody got along. I mean, you've traveled a lot, and you're starting to travel again some more for raising the funds. What are you seeing as you walk around, and sort of this idea that there's a law for some and some not for others? Like, what are you seeing?
Well, I'm going to tell you what I see. Number one, and I think some people may not gravitate or think that I may be on track with this, but I'm going to say it anyways, because this is the way that I articulate what I'm thinking and how I process things. Bottom line is, this deal with Cracker Barrel is you got people coming in and changing things around that have no clue and probably don't have any understanding of historical value. And all of a sudden, they infuse their politics, talking about all the inclusiveness and this and that. You know what? Throw that in the trash, because at the end of the day, people want to come in there and eat. They want to be a part of an iconic thing. They want to sit on the chairs outside. They want to talk with others. Like you said, it's diverse. Everyone can go in. No one's being told that you can't go in. And what you try to do, and what I'm seeing with people like that, is they manifest their thought process and shove it down your throat. Like you're supposed to eat that stuff. And my thing is that instead of staying in the middle and being guided by principles that are honorable, like words of like courage, sacrifice, service, and service could be taking care of that customer.
Yep.
And the other thing that you see here is, did they even ask the customer what they thought? They didn't.
Well, I'm wondering, do you think there's actually something deeper to this? In other words, that's a big iconic brand over the last probably 25 plus years. Do you think there's something deeper to this, that there's a move to try to remove America's heritage and greatness? Is there something deeper there, that they're trying to erase something?
I think that it is, and I think it all serves around politics. Look, whether you like the right, the left, or whoever's in the presidency, see, I don't look at things like that. Yeah. And even though people may think that, I don't think of an individual that's in office. I respect the office, but that doesn't mean I have to align myself with each and everything. This election proved that. And some people will agree with me and disagree. Bottom line, our choices were not very good on both sides, okay? Because there was going to be tension on one side, and there was going to be tension on the other side. And at the end of the day, the way that I think a lot of people approached this election was on experience. Who's been there? Who's done it? Let me just tell you something. Let's put Trump aside. Harris didn't do a very good job of promoting herself in 4 years all over the country, doing the things that she needed to do to put herself in that position to take over that critical position. That is a worldly position.
Well, people forget about what did she do in the primaries? You know, like, where was she ranking when she was up there with all the other Democrats trying to get that position? I don't even know if she won her own state.
That's my point, is that the choices that we had, where you had President Trump, which was going through a lot of turmoil.
Yeah.
They were throwing all of these things that he did wrongfully, which a lot of these things are now starting to be getting thrown out.
Sure.
It was all politicized.
Yep.
And then you had this individual here with the lack of experience, which she could have done a lot over that course of the 4 years. Then you had a president that, at the end of the day, you've got President Trump, which can be very rough and gruff and says it like it is, and really has some issues there. And then all of a sudden you had a guy that was in the presidency that was waking up 10 o'clock in the morning, wasn't out there visible answering questions.
Yep.
I mean, what do you expect the American people to do? Well, it's not about all this racism and all the other crap that everybody gets involved in. It's about the fact that, did you not see what we saw?
Right.
And at the end of the day, these were the choices that we had. And that's where I go with this Cracker Barrel thing, is that you have all these people infusing their thought processes and just shoving it down your throat instead of really analyzing what is working.
Right.
And when you go to a Cracker Barrel, you see this place where I just want to go eat a nice breakfast or maybe a lunch or a dinner and leave the place, look at all of the little trinkets they've got. Yeah. It makes it unique. And that's my point. But the other thing that I'm going to say is, and people are not going to agree with this part of it, but I see it. It all became a racist thing, too. They infused racism in it. Oh, the white man sitting there with the barrel and this and that. Look, I'm Hispanic. I've been through all of that stuff. I'm going to be honest with you. I can't live my life thinking that someone is after me because of the color of my skin, because where I came from or whatever it is. What I know and understand, though, Chad, is that I am in charge of what I do to be purposeful, to take care of others, to have passion, to have courage, and love of honor, duty, and responsibility to me providing for my family.
Yep.
And take out the racist issues and all of these things, because that is just a lot of chatter.
It's distraction.
It's distraction. But at the end of the day, I have to live in an environment where everyone lives together. And that, to me, is the goal.
Yep.
How do we work to live with one another, to take care of each other, and no matter where you come from, who you love or what you're all about, that at the end of the day, we're all Americans and we're all on the same team.
Well, when I say distraction is exactly what you're saying. I have neighbors in my neighborhood that I would go defend. They don't have the same color skin that I have, but if they were being attacked, I promise you I'd run over there and help them because they're great people. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're Americans. So if we're being if we need to help one of our friends, then we're going to help them. So like, you're this month, 21 years,
yes, 21
alive
years.
day.
Yes.
And that was a tough time in your life, obviously. And so what, from your perspective, 21 years ago to today, the war of Iraq, and then you were after Afghanistan, but you went in Iraq. What do you think, where are we at as a country? Like, where do you feel like, 9/11 happens and man, we all pulled together. We were all pulling together. Where do you think we are today in what you're seeing, just in everyday American life?
Well, and bringing back 21 years and looking back, because my Alive Day just happened on August 17th of 2004. I have to tell you that one of the things that does come light, just because we were just talking about it, man, I served with the greatest men and women that you could serve with.
Yep.
Everyone coming from a different background, coming together. That's what I love about the uniform. And I got to tell you, that is the reason why we wore the uniform. That is why on that September 11th time frame that the country came together, even though there was some issues related to, the folks there in the Middle East and who could we trust. As I always said, you know what? When I got hit by that bomb by those folks, I'm not bitter about it. I never looked at it from that perspective. I looked at it from the perspective that war sucks, and when you go to war, there's casualties, and there's a lot of them. Not only the casualties on the battlefield, but the casualties back on the home front, the families.
Yeah.
And to me, when I hear about all of these things going on around the world and all of these negative things that are put out, from one administration to another, because I'm going to tell you, both sides of the aisle stir the pot all the time. And what I saw from that time frame was the fact that we're sent to war. And then what bothers me, though, and I'll take accountability for both sides of the political spectrum right now. Mm-hmm. What bothers me is when we come home, they can't even take care of us correctly.
Wow.
And I see that, even though they're going to give all these politicians and all these people will give you smoke, but at the end of the day, the good part though is that we have a lot of people that told me, hey, the mistakes that were made on our Vietnam veterans won't be made on you today. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. On the other hand, we still have this animosity, and the politics of the world play a role in it, where got one side going against the other, mm-hmm. and instead of bringing people together like we should, that to me is why I fought on the battlefield. That is why my brothers and sisters from every creed, every color, every sexual orientation, whatever it may have been, that everybody comes together. Look, I don't care who you love on the back on the home front. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, what are you doing on the battlefield? Yeah. That's how I look at it. And so to me, when I came home, I just see this tearing of the fabric of, you send us to war to preserve freedom around the world, but then you want to take away freedom from one another.
Oh, that's
and
powerful.
Minimize that.
That's and I think we were talking how there's a lot of times where there's fueling of both sides.
Yes.
Based on social media, which can be great and it can be awful, but what a lot of people on both sides never really know what it is to go live somewhere else in this world. And some of the things that you've seen on your travels, just going in and seeing people with fully loaded AK-47s at what we would call a 7-Eleven, here.
Yes.
That's what's outside this awesome country.
Well, and for example, I'll give you a prime thought process to think about. I was not a very favorable person for what was going on with our Hispanic community. Being Hispanic, I don't like it. I'm sorry. I don't like what was going on in Los Angeles. I really don't like what's going on around the country right now.
Well, what do you mean?
I'll give you an example with the immigration issue. I saw firsthand when I was in Central America, South America, I saw firsthand that, the economic issues that those individuals face in those countries, the strife, the safety, security is a big issue. Like you said, you go to a convenience store and there's people carrying. That's why when they sent the National Guard to Los Angeles, that was nothing. Go to another country and see, and go to a corner.
Are you talking about, did they send it, is it DC or
no,
DC?
DC and LA.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They're there to provide security and support, okay?
Right.
That's what they're there for. But take that into an example of where I've been in other countries where you have people that are carrying and packing AK-47s, like you said, at a convenience store, and have no problem putting a cap in your butt because you get out of line, or someone putting someone's head in a suitcase and delivering it to somebody because they just kidnapped someone, or basically taking someone's organ, which happens.
Yeah.
And doing something to where they commit a crime against an individual, or the trafficking of children from those countries.
Brother.
My thing is like, I was watching the deal in LA, and my thing is to my brothers and sisters from the Hispanic community and all communities, man, take a step back and maybe evaluate the goodness that we have in this country. The sad part about what happened in these last, I would say 6 years, 6 to 8 years, is we've had an influx of immigrants coming to this country. Mm-hmm. The problem you have, Chad, is you can't take care of the people you got here. How in the world are you going to take care of people coming over the border?
Yeah.
And that, to me, is what I'm trying to say to you, is I've seen carnage. I've seen economic depression and economics that really would just like, wow, people living in cardboard boxes. I see the fact that people want a better opportunity. The problem is that we have a homeless problem in this nation that's an epidemic, from our homeless veterans to homeless people in general. And at the end of the day, you're draining the resources of America to a point where you're not going to be able to come back from, man.
Well, exactly right. So why do you have the things that happen in say a third world country where you have heads showing up in suitcases? Well, probably because you ran out of resources.
Yes.
And people are literally doing whatever they can to survive. And so I don't know, as great as this country is and as prosperous as we are, there's a limit to everything. There's a limit to how much resources we have to sustain. Even if we have the money, do we have the people to sustain the hospitals, the education system, all of those things that now start to get clogged up with people that are coming in at the millions mark, not just a few thousand. And by God, we all want to try to help people that want to be helped, right? And so, but I look at that and I say, there's going to be a limit to what we can do. And if we don't fix that, we're going to end up like some of the countries they came from.
Well, and I agree. And I think the other thing is that politicians don't work well together these days. I'm sorry.
Or do they? Or is it like the WWE where they say, hey, I'll go say this, you say this, and in the back of the room, we got them.
I think that may be a part too. And I think the other, the sad part about it is that we need people that are statesmen or state women, that are people that are there because they want to have a country that's the best that it can be.
I wish we'd have term limits.
I'll give you an example.
Term limits would make a big deal.
Correct. And I'm not in favor of having the National Guard in every city around the country. I'm not in favor of stuff like that. But at the end of the day, here's what I'm in favor of. If you have crime that is out of control, you have a city that is infested with people that are homeless, sitting, in encampments, dirtying everything up. You're the #1 city in the world, all right? You call yourself that, and you have visitors coming in, and you see all of this trash. Like, at some point, you got to clean it up. And the thing about it is that whether that's the tactic that you use National Guard or whatever it may be, I think that at some point you got to have everything in your arsenal to make people feel safe.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm saying is I don't know what the answer is, but what I do know is that as part of the answer is the fact that people need to come together and say, hey, let's put together a plan for how we clean up Washington, D.C. I think sometimes not getting people to the table, and I'll give President Trump some kudos on one thing that he just did. Look, getting Putin and Zelensky and all those people to the table is a very powerful thing.
Yes, it is.
Well, why can't we do that in Washington, D.C.?
In our own backyard.
Yes.
That's a great point.
Or in Los Angeles. And instead of playing politics, L.A. or D.C. or Mr. President or whoever it is, and look, I'll call it all out. At the end of the day, come to the table, compromise, get on butcher paper and say, here's what we can agree on.
Yep. That's
and
right.
let's do something about it. But instead, running around and letting people be homeless, it's unacceptable in this country. And I'm sorry, but you know what? People are going to say, well, there's mental health. I know all the problems. I've worked it. You and I have done that work. The problem is we're letting it happen.
Yep.
And what's the solution? Well, the solution is, you know what? Let's get everybody off the streets. And here later, I'll tell you a solution on what I think we should do on the corner of Memorial and May Avenue, which I have an office there. And I'll give you my my solution for the homeless problem on that corner.
Well, I'll be interested to hear it. You know, one thing that you touched on was the trafficking.
Yeah.
And how many kids, and you know, I think the number is 800,000 kids go missing a year.
Yeah.
And we talk about epidemics. Is that not an epidemic? Is that not a problem? And where are they going? And how do we account for them? And then I'm going to hit probably it might be a little bit old topic now, but it's still pretty fresh on a lot of people's mind. Man, we were really thinking we were going to see this upper echelon Epstein list. And I'd like to get your opinion on what do you think Trump is. The Trump presidency is are they holding on to it for different reasons? Is there more to be utilized that as a tool to get people to do what you want them to do, or was there never a list? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think that there was a list. I think there was blackmail involved with a lot of people.
Okay.
I think that Epstein got rich because he was able to do that kind of thing where he would have people in compromised situations. There's a lot of movies that have been made about all of that kind of stuff. And I think that the administration did make some mistakes. Look, I'm going to be one of the people that'll call things out. I think there were some mistakes of the fact that, you know, even the AG came out at the beginning and said, we're going to put this out. And then all of a sudden they say, no, we're not going to put that out. And all of a sudden now that creates deception. It creates an environment where, like, you're thinking, well, what are they trying to hide? Yeah. And then you had, you know, Bongino and Patel within the FBI. They're trying to clean up the FBI because I think it was politicized. I mean,
I think that's pretty clear if you really look at the evidence.
When you look at things like that, I mean, I think there was a lot of other organizations that were politicized too. But that happens in every administration, where you have the politics of the world. Because what happened when President Trump came in, they were politicizing that to the utmost. And then when, of course, you know, President Biden came in, there was a lot of politicizing there too about his interests, the laptop, and all of the other things. But on the Epstein, one thing is clear. Here's where you draw the line. Who was on those flights and who went to that island? And that should be the list that should be put out. And the evidence should be able to pinpoint that those individuals were on those airplanes and they went there. That, to me, is evidence that you can't, all of the noise behind it, that, to me, is the juggler right there. Because at the end state is you are going to find out who went there, what they did, and the bad things that they did. And that's already been documented, the bad things they did to people.
I think that they have some video of that.
They do.
And you know there was cameras all, I mean, if that was and
witnesses.
A honeypot situation to corrupt people, blackmail people, then there had to be, you know, just resurfacing is this Anthony Weiner story that I just saw recently in his laptop, and what, you know, Ahmadine and him, apparently those
bad
investigators
stuff.
couldn't even watch that entire, they'd have to take breaks so they could come back and you know, and there was like 9 investigators, I think 5 of which committed suicide after that. I mean, this is some serious stuff that I will say, you know, from the Gen Z perspective, that group who I think is on fire for the Lord.
Yes.
I think that they're really going to be a huge revival for this next generation and save America. And they were really excited to say, man, here's somebody that an administration that maybe we could trust. I don't know if you could ever trust any administration. It's politics is sticky business. However, that was a big one. That was a big shot to their, like, hey guys, I thought you were gonna be a moral standard of saying, here's what we found, and we're just gonna show you. It's not gonna be a secret anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a thing that really is hopefully going to be eventually laid out. And I discuss this because I know there's evidence to speak that President Trump and Rudy Giuliani were very instrumental in getting rid of the 5 mob bosses of the day of New York versus the mafia, you know, back in the 70s, 60s. And Trump hated those guys because they would always extort money out of him when he was doing his buildings and things. So he was internal and helped bring down that. And if you go watch the documentary on that, Fear City, in NYC versus the mafia, you know, Rudy Giuliani would say it was pins and needles when they went to jury, because one little juror to say, no, I don't think so, would have ruined the entire case. Yes. And so they were so infiltrated into that society. The milkman was part of the mafia. And how would you say, oh, Bob, he is the greatest guy in the world. Don't tell me he's part of the mafia. And so I wonder if the deep state takedown, if you will, is the same thing, except about 1 billion times bigger than that. And so things we see and we think we want to see, we can't yet because it's used as a tool somewhere else. But I'm telling you, Generation Z needs an answer.
Well, and that brings up a good point. When you talk about Trump, he's the outsider.
100%.
And he's the one coming in. And
tell me one former president will even stand by him and take a picture.
Well, and
what does that mean?
Well, and then you've got the other presidents who were longtime political folks. They've been there for generations and generations. And I think that's what you have to look at, too, is the fact that politics was never about people going and having a job for the rest of their lives.
No, you're exactly right.
It was meant for
it was a sacrifice, really.
It was a sacrifice. You don't get paid a lot of money. Here's the problem we have, and the American people are blind to it. Yeah. Okay, not all of them, but there's a lot of blind people to this because I hear it. I hear the chatter. How in the world are you going to tell me on both sides of the aisle you go in and you're worth, say, $150,000?
So glad you're bringing this up.
You're worth $150,000, and now, we'll just take Ocasio-Cortez. Okay, God bless her. All right. Geez, now you're worth what, $27 million or something?
$27 million on a. Probably, I think it's $180,000
and it's not just on one side of the aisle; it's on both sides. And look, I'm probably going to get in trouble for all of that. But at the end of the day, no, it doesn't make business sense to me. And the thing about it is that you went to Washington, D.C. to make a difference on behalf of the American people. And what you're really doing is, in some cases, not all, but in some cases, people are padding their wallets, and that's not right. And look, I'm in charitable work. I've had people, but I also do real estate too. Mm-hmm. So I do that as my primary.
You know both sides. You know a for-profit company and a non-profit company.
Correct, and you have to be. I understand. I live a great life. I have nice things. You know, I do charitable work. I don't want anybody thinking anything different. And you want to be on the up and up with everything that you do. But my point is that when you're over here, it can't even pass legislation to say it's not okay for you to go out and do these stocks and do this kind of stuff, and then you can't even disclose the fact that
you don't
mortgages.
You don't think there's a conflict of interest there for the people,
or the inflated numbers on mortgage and stuff, brother? I can't inflate any numbers. The bottom line is I don't make that kind of money to inflate numbers. And so, anyways, there's just a lot of that, and that's where the American people are tired of, and that is why when we went to the deal with just past election, and even the one before that, people just get tired of the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, I'm going to look, I don't know what the deceptive issues were with that election in 2020, but you can't tell me that 85 million people were running around voting when that's not even what you just saw here. And then the problem is that numbers from year to year, if anybody would have got 85 million, I would have thought Obama would have.
Right. Yeah.
Because Obama,
I mean, he's impressive, man.
He was impressive. You can rag him out all you want, but the man can talk. The man, did he look out for his nest egg? Oh yeah, he did. He looked out for his interests. He looked out for his side of the aisle. All of those presidents do that, and that's my issue too. Is for example, and it's not about even Obama. It's about every president that comes in. Instead of coming in and freaking guns a-blazing, how about looking at where we're at and just bringing everything to the middle a little bit?
Well, I don't know if you can anymore.
And I don't think
wish
you
we
can
could.
either.
That's why you have to have a Donald Trump that is just so bold in what he says, and he just says what's on his mind. What, frankly, I find refreshing. But again, it's going to make a lot of people angry, and so. Well, we're going to take a quick break. I mean, okay. I knew you were going to come in hot.
That was pretty good. That was a great, lively discussion. We didn't even get into my story yet.
We'll get on the second part, but Major Ed coming in hot, as he says. And, I will say this, too, before I go to break, is that I do hear sometimes, oh, Major Ed's look how he lives. I don't know a man that works harder than you do. I'm speaking for myself.
Yeah.
So why would anyone ever say, well, he doesn't, he shouldn't have this or he shouldn't have that? Hang on to your belt loop for a week and then come and justify why you shouldn't be able to have some rewards in life, I mean.
Well, hard work pays off. And, Karen, my wife, has done well in life.
She's amazing
People
human
don't
being.
even know.
Well, we're going to get into
what
the
she's
sacrifice.
got, the resources she's got. People don't know how many hours I put in a day to work. But you know what? You're going to have people that are going to like you and dislike you. That's what's going on in politics right now. There's people that like Trump. There's people that like Harris. There's people that dislike Cracker Barrel, and there's people that like Cracker Barrel. At the end of the day, you know what? But that's what makes freedom real powerful, too.
That's right.
So, you know what? People can hate all they want and be negative. Here's what I always say, and we're going to end with this. Do you want me to be on the corner of May and Memorial, begging for money, not being destitute? Who cares about my military service? Or do you want somebody trying to do good? And at the end of the day, you know what? I've made mistakes. Could I have done things differently? You bet. But now I've reached a point in my life where I'm going to work my butt off and I'm going to be purposeful in everything that I do. And that's what I'm all about.
Well, I see you putting God more and more in charge of your life, surrendering to that. And that's why I think your third phase in life is going to be incredible. And
I want to tell you a little bit about that in the next segment about why I made a change.
Let's take a break. We'll come right back.
All right.
All right. Major Ed's book. Go get it. It's a book about survival, coming back from some terrible odds, surviving through it, going through what we're going to talk about. But he came back, and you can get this on his website at majored.org.
Yeah.
And pick up a book, check it out. It's an awesome read. You can knock it out in a weekend, and it's inspirational. All right? So let's get back to your story. Now, finally, we're going to actually get into the book, and we're going to talk about some of the things you went through. So, as we said, this month was 21 years your alive date.
Yes.
So let's just go back into the war of Iraq. And I know it was a long time ago, but something worth talking about, because you have to, hopefully be working with people that you like and they want to come out and be more free and out of some type of tyranny. And I thought that's what we were over in Iraq for, was to try to free the people over there to be sort of more free in living. And one thing of the stories that you told me about that just has always stuck with me is when you were training the Iraqi army. Tell me some of the things that you saw, because I think, man, people got to realize there's some different folks in different parts of the world and the way they believe and their backgrounds and their religion and how they see things. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I have to start out by saying that when I received a deployment to Iraq, we all know how dangerous that place is. The men and women who I went with from every background, as I stated earlier, are just champions. Our enlisted and our non-commissioned officers, the backbone of our military, understand that they take their training seriously. And that's what we were trying to do, too, with the Iraqi army. All of a sudden, we get put in this situation where we're training these individuals kind of on boot camp kind of status, and getting them combat capable. And getting them to show up was the biggest issue that we had because they would show up, get their paycheck, and then they wouldn't come back. And I don't know if you know, but not to get into the politics of the war, but one of the big mistakes that was made, and you know what? It was made on the right side of the aisle. They disbanded everybody.
What do you mean they disbanded everybody?
When we went into Iraq, General Franks takes, basically, he's in charge. He takes Iraq out in 17 plus days, okay?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you get the State Department, you get all these people in, and all of a sudden you're disbanding a whole military that the Iraqi force had.
Oh, the core of
the core of it. You just dismantled the whole thing, sent them home. Well, heck, no wonder you created an insurgency, because what you should have had is accountability. You should have gave them some type of hope or opportunity. All of a sudden, now you just basically took them out. That was their livelihood, being service members, and you just basically made a rash decision from the State Department side of the house. I think that was a huge mistake. It was a huge mistake because you didn't know and have any accountability of these individuals. So, and some of them turned. You didn't know where the weapon systems were that they may have had, or weapons caches or whatever else, and you didn't know the intent of some of these people to want to fight back and be recruited by countries like Iran. And all of a sudden, now you created an insurgency led by al-Zarqawi and those kind of people. I believe that was a guy that was on the lines at that particular time of 03, 04. And all of a sudden, you get this hotbed of individuals that were part of and had received any type of training as a military personnel from the Iraqi army. And all of a sudden, these Republican guards and whoever else was in the military are all of a sudden out there thrown out on the street. If you don't think that they were not going to be combat capable in some way and not receive arms from folks like Iran, who was already funding Hezbollah and other Hamas and other people, you're sadly mistaken. Wow. And that's exactly what happened. And when we were on the ground, I remember in June of that year of 04 is when they gave, at the end of June, early July, they gave power back to the Iraqi leadership. And the insurgency was hot. I'm telling you, man, there was a lot of casualties every day.
Was the former Iraqi army is what you're saying.
You bet. There was a lot of them that were not on your side. And one of the things that the surge did, because I've read a lot about it, and I've read both sides of the political spectrum on it too, but the surge, what it really did, the people don't understand. General Petraeus and the doctrine that was written at Fort Leavenworth and other places really created an atmosphere where instead of being in a base and everything, your infrastructure, everything is coming out of a base, now what you were doing is you were creating these forward operating bases, and you were there with the people every day. So you were gathering intel from the Iraqis on the ground, the civilians. You were gathering intel on who possibly was part of the insurgency. And all of a sudden now you created an atmosphere where intel rules the world, man, when it comes down to having intelligence, having information, and understanding what it looks like on the battlefield and on the ground. And that's exactly what happened. And so that's why the surge was successful, because now you were there doing what I call host nation support. You were there part of a host nation. You were there integrating yourself. And I will say that the Kurds were excellent fighters. When we were training these individuals, man, it was an interesting dynamic, because I'll go into it, but because I know you asked about what I saw.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you what I saw.
There's Kurds and Sunnis, correct?
Correct, and then Shiites. So so there's like three factors. I will tell you that reading what Bill Clinton did, because Bill Clinton, there were things that he did in his presidency that were pretty powerful.
He's a pretty sharp man.
One was in Yugoslavia, they were able to create a deal where you had all these sects, SECT, sectors and people, and you created boundaries around them so that they, so like in Iraq, you have the Kurds, you have the Shiites, and Sunnis. Well, that's what they were all in their different geographical areas. And of course, some of them don't like each other.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, it's all based on religion and the issues at hand. And so, that's what I started to see. And then in the barracks, and I'm going to just say it like it is, I'm seeing homosexuality running rampant. And look, I don't care who you love.
But it's worse than that if you go into
and when I say that, look, I'm about making sure everybody in this world, I love everybody. That's the person that I am. What I saw, and maybe this is a better word, was homosexual acts that were conducted in vain, pedophilia, and all of those things. And that's what I'm referring to.
Yep.
And I was able to see that, and we witnessed that. And in doing that, we're talking about bestiality as well and things like that. And the thoughtful prayer every day. And I'm not saying all these folks were like that. But in the barracks, the older men, there were instances where older men were using, raping, sexually inappropriate behavior, sexual behavior that it wasn't about loving someone or whatever, whatever word we use in that regard, look, if you love yourself here in America and you're gay, God bless you, man.
But there's a line.
There's a line, and these acts were not approved or, consented.
Right, but they were approved in
that culture.
In that culture.
Yes, and so we saw a lot of that.
I just think it's really, people need to open their eyes to.
I'm just calling it like it is. And for a man to rape another man, or another man to basically indicate that young man is his property,
but you're talking
have a problem with that.
Ages of 12. All right,
correct.
Let's call it what it is. That's pedophilia.
Correct. It was young people. It was some of the people that were in the soldiers that we were dealing with. They were sleeping with one another. I'm sorry, this is the military. These are the barracks. I don't know what your policies are in that, because we have policies now in our military that we deal with, okay? And again, as long as you wear the uniform, I don't care who you love. That's not I don't have issues with stuff like that. Bottom line is, are you going to be on the front lines with me?
That's right.
That's how I operate. But in that same token, I'm not going to say that I'm going to approve of the fact that someone gets raped and it's a young person, 19, 20-year-old service member by some 50-year-old. It's inappropriate. And it needs to be called out. And it needs to be said that was not our intent in our training program. We're there to train you to be service members.
I remember something you did, because it irritated you guys so much that you'd have what you'd call the 2 a.m. wake-up calls.
Yes.
And call it training.
Correct.
So tell us exactly what you did.
Well, we'd wake them up, and all of them would be, the first couple weeks that we were with them, we'd be shacked up, and they'd be shacked up with one another. I mean, the first time I saw this, people came to me and were like, what do we do about this? I'm like, that's inappropriate.
Yeah.
We're in a training environment.
It's inappropriate anytime, but
yeah, but we're in a training environment.
Pretty blatant here.
Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Or I'll give you another example of what we saw. If you think it's okay for them to treat women that way,
ooh,
totally inappropriate. We saw beatings. We saw women you know, and it is that culture of this control. Heck, you don't see that. Look, there's some control going on here, but no control like that.
Hey, listen, but look at Dearborn, Michigan. Look at the parades they've been having. Look at Minnesota. This isn't far from this land. And if you have more geographic area in a different part of the world, and you have that area, why do you need to bring it here? Like, why can't you just be profitable there? And I thought that's what we were doing, was like, let's give you a playing field. And I'm not saying every Iraqi wants to come to America. That's not what I'm saying. But I would say that America is probably one of the largest immigration or desired countries to immigrate to.
Yes.
So why wouldn't you just make your countries better or more profitable instead of having to come here and bring what your belief system is here? What do you think about that?
Well,
what do you think about what you're seeing?
It is integration, and you're seeing it in Europe. And look, I'm not calling out those folks from the Middle East. That's not what I'm saying. Look, you do whatever you want to do in life. But there are some norms that we have to live by, boundaries, just like law and order here in America. You have to live. If you don't have law and order, then we're all running around out of control.
It's chaos.
And that's what we saw in those countries. And so, to me, the out-of-control behavior of someone taking something from someone else and sexually abusing them that way was inappropriate. And it's not who we stand for. That's not what we stand for as a nation.
Nope.
If I'm there, that's not what we stand for. And look, we're in their country. I get that. But again, treating women with negativity and disrespect, and then the way that I was witness to the way they treated it, even though there was these sexual acts that were occurring. If you came out and you said you were gay, you'd be thrown off a building.
Yep.
And my thing is it was extremely dysfunctional, and then you have religion tied to it. And I was like thinking to myself, how can these people, I guess they're praying a lot because they sinned. And so I was just trying to get, not just me, all of us were trying to get, and then they tell you in government, don't talk about these things and don't bring them up because it's sensitivity.
But they never
training.
they never leave your mind.
No, because I thought that I can't. I'm not here to approve, and I don't share this story very much, but I'm going to share something extremely powerful. As a young boy growing up Catholic, I remember in Puerto Rico, I was probably 6 years old, man, and the priest was doing something inappropriate with one of our.
You're witnessing this.
I didn't witness it, but we knew it was going on.
Okay.
Something like that. The priest, I remember putting his hand on me and putting the hands on the other boys. And, I told my mom. See, I was confident.
Yeah.
On the other hand, there was another kid that wasn't as confident. And I've never shared brother, I don't share that story very much. But my thing is like, I'm sharing it because it was like this violation of as a child. I didn't get violated, but I saw we knew someone else was getting violated by this priest. And then, of course, they moved him and everything. I only talk about that because it's in my memory of what happened. Nothing like that occurred, but this person gave you these bad vibes. And look, that's not in my arsenal, man. I don't. Yeah. And so why? So that experience as a young kid, seeing the fact that you were so negative to someone, and this kid is going to be traumatized probably for the rest of their life. And I see this over there, and I see that same type of behavior. It was a total deal where I was like, what in the world is this world like this?
That's what kept me an atheist for 42 years of my life, because I didn't understand religion. I really didn't. Yeah. I said, well, there's a lot of man stuff in that religion, in most religions.
Yes.
Until I finally understood you can have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, And that changed everything for me because it made me realize, okay, well, that's not God doing those things. That's man doing those things. And man is made of sin. We're born in the sin world. I mean, we know the principality of this world is Satan.
Yes.
So Satan wants to steal, kill, and destroy every day. So until you actually have the relationship with Jesus Christ, and I'm not a big fan of religion. I'm just not. I just think if you put your faith and you have that personal relationship, you're going to be a good moral person. You're not going to be, you're not going to get into that stuff, or you'll be corrected from that stuff. But it's free will, and free will allow you to go down to a lot of different bad paths.
Yes.
So it's kind of it's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up because it's like I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, this religion's bad because they do this. There's religions over here that do the same thing.
Correct.
And unfortunately.
And unfortunately, for how many lives have been impacted because of what's gone on in the Catholic Church? And again, this isn't an episode of how bad the Catholic. I'm just bringing it up as a substance of the fact that these are things that happen and people are scarred.
Yeah.
And when we look at scars and stripes, it's like that to me is why I went there. Brother, I don't share stories like that very much. It's been a private story. I know some people know it, but I will tell you a positive thing with that is that we had a protector. We had this nun.
Yep.
And she hit me with the ruler on my hand, by the way. I do remember that, too. And the thing about it is that we had protectors like that, angels that would protect us. We have angels everywhere that protect us. And I want to share that at some point with you as part of my story of when I decided to make a change. Let me just tell you, on August 17th, 2004, when I hit that roadside bomb, it was the worst day of my life. But it also was the best day of my life. And the reason is all of us are going to have people that are going to like us and dislike us and may not, think that I don't know, who knows. But at the end of the day, the reason it was the best thing that ever happened is look where I'm at today. Look at the position that I'm at. Look at the work that I've been able to do. That to me is what I stand my ground on. That's what the principles are. Have I made mistakes? We both have made mistakes.
Sure.
But you know what? We pray about it and we follow Jesus and we hope that Jesus and the good Lord will take us to the promised land. And like you said, doing good deeds. And no matter who we come in contact with, that everyone matters. Everyone should be respected. Everyone should be honored. And that, as people that promote this Scars and Stripes coffee, that we can come together with a cup of Joe and say, hey, you know what? Let's talk about things. Let's talk about the politics of the world. Let's talk about the Cracker Barrels. Let's talk about these things. But it's also talk about life and what maybe brought you here. Because what brought me here to me is not to be negative about some of these things, but to say that that's real life. And everyone has gone through real life. Everyone has gone through challenges. But it's how do you overcome those? Well, and that's what's important.
That's in the name. I mean, everybody has their scars, but I truly believe and know with my heart that with his stripes, Jesus Christ, we'll all be healed. And that's you have to put, if you don't put that at the top, it's going to be a tough road. You're going to find exits there all the time. Okay, the day in the fob and the day of the explosion, what was it like? Is there an intuition of war, like this something heavy that you felt that day before you went out on that convoy?
Great question, man. I knew that I was going to get hit by something that day.
Or the whole group, or was it just you specifically?
It was me. I didn't tell anyone. I was sweating profusely. Look, you sweat over there, but I was not. I was sweating in a different way. It might have been too that I was sweating because I had a shot of whiskey the night before, and of course, alcohol's not allowed.
How'd you do that?
Well, we had our beans to getting things in Baghdad and other places. We were actually pretty scrappy about everything. I probably shouldn't even talk about that, but yes, we did have alcohol. We found it. We knew where to get it. There was a liquor store there in Baghdad that you could just open up the garage and buy whatever you wanted. So don't give me this other stuff about people not, you know what I mean? Like You're not allowed to do that. But yeah, and I'm out the military now, so I could talk about it. But I had a shot of whiskey the night before with my guys from Puerto Rico. They were my firemen and everything. Man, these guys were great, man. And every ethnic background you could think of. I've always been one of those people that I've in the military growing up with my dad being in the military. you just grew up with everyone from every background.
Yeah.
And you stuck up for one another. I remember doing that at one point in my life, sticking up for a young man that, and that's why this thing with these Iraqis and doing what they did, I actually stuck up for a young man. I remember when I was 17 years old, and he was a gay kid, and they were making fun of him, and I stood up to some bullies about it, and so to me, that's one story. But standing up for my black friends who were, who I remember in Lawton, Oklahoma, they would get bused to Lawton MacArthur, and they lived almost 15 miles away. And it was this kind of, I didn't know about segregation and these other things, man. I'd lived a life where I was in the military and everybody got along. And then I'd come to Oklahoma and I'd see some things that I'm just like, wow, this is little, I could see where there could be things that could be perceived and looked at as racist and whatever. And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because it shaped me. It shaped me to who I was as a commander on the battlefield, as a commander for all my men and women who served under my command, or for those that I served under their command.
Well, I've heard stories, a number of stories where inside the fence, everybody was getting along. Everybody formed to do what they needed to get the job done,
man.
And it's a bond like no other.
Yes.
And so it's like, oh gosh, if we could have that outside the fence, it'd be awesome. And I think, like we've talked before in the first segment, a lot of times politics wants to pit us against one another when we're not. We just want to live our lives, take care of our families, love our friends, love our neighbors, and have a great life, have a successful life. But I remember in your book, there was something when you're you see something in the road that catches your eye.
Yeah.
And it's a divot or something like that. Can you tell us a little bit?
Yeah. So when you drove on the roads, you were extremely great training. I had I remember my drill sergeant, Sergeant First Class Hicks, ex-football player, Atlanta, Georgia. He was from Georgia, if I recall, man. Freaking, he didn't even wear the liner from the steel. He wore the straight steel pot. You know what I mean? Like straight helmet.
Wow, that usually had to be hot.
Back then when I was in the 80s, you wore this liner and then you wore the steel pot around it. Yeah, he just wore the freaking steel pot. Black gentleman, awesome guy, man. And I remember the first day I'm in boot camp, and I'm going to this. First day in boot camp, he said, everything, basically that first week, everything we do, that's what he said every day. Everything we do, the training that we're going to give you, you will be able to utilize it, and it will save your life. And you're like thinking, oh, okay, yeah, we're in peacetime, okay, in boot camp. You know what I mean? This training that you will use, it could save a life. That's why we do the training. That's why we're a combat effective. That's why we're who we are. There was that kind of verbiage. Very just, and I remember sitting with him one time and we talked and this is where I'm going with the story is that, always take your training seriously. You're here and this is serious. Here's how you're here and this is serious business. You understand me? That kind of talk, and we're like, oh yeah, and he used other words too.
Get your attention.
But on that day is exactly what went through my mind as I'm driving. Every time you went outside the wire, man, there was a lot of anxiety, hypertension, hypervigilance.
Yes.
This is you right here.
Yes.
And you wouldn't be like that inside the base. It'd be right outside when you left the wire, and you're just, man, that's how war is, brother. And it'll get me emotional, man, because the thing is, I saw people that didn't come back, and that's tough, man. Or when you would see the ambulances coming in to the base, and you're just staring, or when I went through, oh man, it's like the freaking hospital of death. And you walk in, man, I hope you can come out. That to me was what was integral in the question that you asked about seeing and making sure that you were on your game. And I'll have to tell you that I took my eye off the ball for about 5 minutes. As I was driving, I was thinking about some things, and all of a sudden, I kind of came back, and then I'm kind of back on it, and then boom, the bomb explodes.
So,
and I didn't. And it wasn't like it was just your mind goes somewhere else sometimes, and so it was always like that. It was like then you just have a little bit of moment of respite. It's very intense in the brain, man, of how you think about things. And so you would see dog carcasses, you would see trash, you would see lips on the road where IEDs had gone off before. You'd see on the road where they'd patched it up. Our people had patched it up so we could get our convoys through. And then you'd see just this dirtiness of a country. I'm sorry, it was dirty. People frickin' put their oil when they changed their oil on the ground. That's how that was. Or the trash area where you saw the trash dump site and there's kids out there eating that food out there, whatever's out there in that trash, with all of those birds and the nastiness behind it. You know, you just saw that. And that's why, you know, I'm humble about what I have here in this country. And I have to tell you, the reason I feel like I'm successful today is because why do I work so hard? I work so hard because I saw that, man. I saw kids hungry. I saw kids smile and have nothing, or the little sandals that they're wearing, and that's all they got, man. And when we would go on these convoys, and you wouldn't see the kids come out to you know, wave at us, you knew maybe there was some enemy intent involved, that there could be a roadside bomb. And so for me, when I went through it, man, they said IED 9 o'clock, and boom, I hit it. And I turned the wheel to the 3 o'clock side to get away from it, because that's what training does, man. You train to the highest of standards. And I will tell you that, man, that's one of the times in my life where I've seen diversity at its best. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because at that particular time, everyone from every diverse background ever is going to render aid to you. And they don't care what you look like, but you're one of their brothers and sisters. And they're not going to leave you behind. And that to me was the power of teaching me that all of us in this world should love one another, should not be negative towards one another, but should embrace each other for our diversity, for who we are, you know. And why do we even have to use words to identify all of that? Yeah. Bottom line, that is what gracefulness tells us to do in the biblical sense. With the stories that they tell, and the stories of the only individual that didn't make any of those mistakes, and all he did was die on the cross for our sins. And that to me is the power of the fact that what I did on that day is sacrificed. But I can't tell you that, man, this is very deep. I can't tell you that I didn't think about Jesus on that cross and what he went through, and how terrible that was, or how terrible it is that we do that to people here in America, that we murder people and we do bad things like that. And then we don't even blink an eye and are remorseful. Heck, if we can't look at Jesus and say that was a sad deal, then what type of people are we? And that to me was all of these things were going through my head. I mean, again, I'm not putting myself in Jesus' shoes, but I just got blown up, man. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, I'm praying hard.
Yeah.
And all I could think about was this, man. I pulled this, of course, I pulled this out. And I'm thinking like this cross, man. Yeah. And everything in those images of the cross and being in church and did you spirituality, man. It was man, I don't talk about that stuff very much, but I wanted to get deep with it because it was powerful.
Did you sense any, like, I mean, I don't know what kind of pain you felt, intense, or did you feel a warmth? Did you see a light? Did you feel like you had an out of body experience? I mean, I've I've never asked you this question because
No, I saw the light, but I also, man, I was deep in thought process of you're facing death. And it's the first time that that's ever happened, man. I mean, I remember thinking like one day I was going to drown in this pool when I was learning how to swim. No, it's not the same, okay? This was a total different deal. This was like, oh, I'm hurt bad. And that combat medic saved my life, rendered aid, grabbed my hand, and he's like, you believe in God?
He asked you this.
Yeah. Are you a believer? That's what he said. And of course, man, that's when then I'm pulling this out and reminding myself and then taking every deep breath. And you just asked me a pretty powerful question. I went into shock, so I wasn't feeling anything. And it was just very surreal. And then I remember this, I haven't even talked about this in a long time. I'm pushing the elevator, and I'm hoping that elevator ain't going down, brother.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
I'm thinking in my mind, my life is flashing. I'm going to tell you some deep stuff. My life is flashing. I'm trying to press the elevator up, and it's not going up. And I'm like, man, I don't want to go down.
Oh,
I know what down looks like. I don't know what it looks like, but I don't want to be down in the fire. Hell, you know what I mean? Like all these, man, it sounds morbid, but it was true. And then I'm seeing these lights flashing. I mean, all these things are coming at me, but I'm seeing this light flashing, and I could see it in a distance, and then it comes, and it went by me real fast. And then I'm seeing, this is actually pretty powerful. I'm seeing my family in there. My dad, my mom, my grandfather, people that I'd met in the past, things that I'd not done right. And I've kind of made up with a lot of things that I did wrong. I remember telling a girl one time that I'm sorry about that our relationship didn't work out, you know, because I felt bad about it. And I just didn't even give it a thought when the person got emotional and all of that. And I just, it was kind of just very morbid, but also it was godly too, because then I would see things in the future. And when you asked about that, I mean, that was a very powerful moment in that it was about 20 minutes of that, of just this reflection. And then I'm seeing Caitlin, my daughter, graduating college at the University of Oklahoma. I mean, it was just this, why would I even think about that or see that?
Hold on. Wait.
Years ago. Wait. Years ahead.
Restate what you just said.
Seeing Caitlin graduate at
Caitlin
college.
Was what, two at the time?
2.5 years old, yeah. And I think
and
it was
you
because
had this vision?
Yeah, because I had this picture of her in this OU outfit, this OU cheerleader outfit.
Wow.
And so and it's all of this stuff that's ahead of time. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it was like my daughter's graduating college. And even I didn't think about high school, but it was college because I remember the OU thing, you know, the colors and the.
When you sensed that, did you feel almost a comfort that God's saying, "I'm not done with you on this earth, son"?
You know, I have never had anyone ask me that. I did not know what all that meant. I did not know what it meant to see my father older. In this picture, in this frame coming at me, or my mom being older, or my brothers and sisters being who they are like today. It was just this very, surreal experience that I was able to see a little bit ahead. And that's why, in a way, today I have this intuition about things. I'm not saying that I see things in the future. There's movies that were made like that, but I just am able to be cautious about things. And so, you know, this past year has been that moment of reflection and power. And I'll let you ask me another question, but then bring me back to the fact that I want to tell you a story about my dad visiting me as an angel.
Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back on the other side because. Man, this is some awesome stuff. We'll come back for the third, final segment of this podcast. Thanks, Major Ed. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. All right, we're back for our third segment, final segment. Man, that last one was. I was glad because I got some time to recover from that. That was some heavy stuff, man.
It was. I'm glad we talked about it too, because sometimes I need that for healing and recovery for me.
Well, you never talk about it. Like you never. And that's something I wanted to ask you was, I've never known you to complain about your injury and about the things that you had to go through to recover. But there are some that react differently.
Yes.
Why? Why do you think that is?
Well, there was somebody that had told me in a hospital that, if there's anybody that's going to get through this with a smile, it's going to be you. And keep smiling even on the days that are hard. I remember having a hard day in the hospital, and when that was said to me, I was like, wow. And the other part to that was the individual also told me, this was a therapist, it's going to be hard moving forward, but it's what you do with it and what you're able to accomplish with it that will ease the pain. And I've always thought about it that way. And then the other thing too that therapist said is that, you're going to find yourself in situations where you're going to be down, but there's always someone else that may have it worse than you.
Mm-hmm.
And it was true because at that point I was seeing a lot of hardcore amputees. I'm talking about, when I mean hardcore, you're talking about missing 2 limbs, traumatic brain injury. I mean, I live with all those things too, but I'm only missing 1 limb and I can get around. Some of these people weren't ever going to be able to get to a level that was going to be a place that close to before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get close to that every day in what I do because I work hard at it, but there are people that will never achieve that, meaning someone that may have brain damage that because the explosion caused a bad concussion blast they are in that form where they have to have a caretaker. They have to have basic necessities taken care of. And when you were able to witness that, it changed you to the point where, like, I need to be praying about how lucky I am that I'm in this state of mind and not taking anybody else's situation and comparing it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there are people that have it harder than you, and respect that, and respect where you're at, and respect the fact that he took something away from you, but he gave you even more. That's pretty powerful.
It's incredibly powerful because I just see that, again, I'm going to keep going back to it, and I want you to touch on it, that there has been, even though you've had a faith with God your whole life, it seems like you're surrendering more and more. And I think that's one of the hardest things to do, especially with a guy that is full of life. And sometimes I think as men, we try to make it about us. And there's some strength in that. But if we ever just completely surrender and say, it's never about us, God, it's about you. I'm performing for an audience of one.
Yes.
That I feel like you're getting further. And you put some strong personalities in your life with the events and things that you've done that probably could take you down a path that would make it more about you as opposed to, and I think you're already starting to maybe wean some of those people out of your life to say, I'm not strong enough to be beside you and lead my life for the Lord. But I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, that's actually a pretty good statement that I want to go to. I'm glad you brought it up. My dad, before he passed away, had told me that I needed to get closer to God. This was been 2 years ago. And then I went to my friends and my boss, my former boss, Mary Ann, at First American Title, and I told her that I had an experience where after my father's death, that at about 3:16 in the morning, I had a visit.
What's
from my dad.
3:16? That seems important, doesn't it?
And my dad visited me. I woke up in a deep sweat. I don't wake up like that very much either. This was a deep sweat of, like, being in the combat field environment, and I woke up and I was just like, what happened? And then in my mind is my dad basically telling me in angel form, it's what I feel like happened. He told me it's time for you to get right with God and get connected more with him. I was 55 at the time, and I was out, running around all over the country working with an organization, and that I believed in our great work that we were doing, but I was out late at night drinking, doing all that stuff. And I finally just realized that I probably needed to change the footprint of what I was doing. And so I started taking some action towards that, and started to get back and being at church. I go to Life Church, so I like going and sitting in the pew on Sundays. And so I started to kind of gravitate to all of that. And then I approached, like I said, First American Title, and I started working with them on a contract to basically support the real estate world. And all of those things were things that my dad basically, I think, was calling me to do, and that was to be purposeful and to do the things that he did in his end of life, and that was build houses in Colombia. He was attending church. He built a community center there in Colombia. He did all kinds of cool stuff, which I never even knew he did. I know he was doing stuff, but I didn't know all of that. It wasn't until he passes away and people tell you that he's done all this stuff.
Well, that's the important part. He didn't make it about him.
He did make it about him, and that's one of the things he was trying to tell me too, is to get
and this
closer
was
to God.
This was in a dream state.
And do the right thing. Do the things. Why are you doing the things you're doing? Why are you helping people? And get back to that mindset of, and get away from the things that may not be good for your health and good for your body and your soul and your spirituality. And those were things that Karen was saying too.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because we believe in God, family, country, but you have to do it in that order, and you have to put God first.
Yeah.
So was there anything that your wife is an angel? She is so wonderful.
Yeah.
And was she saying anything to you? Was she just going?
Well, she'd send Bible verses and things like that, and then, you're very stressed on your job and making sure that you're making your bottom lines. You're working with a lot of people, a lot of personalities, a lot of people that are very high influential. You have to take care of all of those things. You have to take care of, you have to worry about budgeting. You have to worry about getting up and making sure that, everyone's taken care of, that the organizations you're working with, or you're making an impact with them, that all of that, those are the things that people don't see. All they see is the glamour and all these other things. They don't see how much big of a bowling ball, or like Jesus holding the cross, how heavy that gets.
It's tell us the toll that you see you at fundraising. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is that the events I get to go to, and when you get up and you tell your story, and you see the veterans that come there, or the first responders plus veterans, and I see you get emotional every time.
And and it's raw, man.
You're reliving that.
I do.
You're reliving laying on the pavement when you said earlier that everyone came together to save your life.
Yeah.
Didn't matter who you were, what your background, they were there to save your life.
And God gave them the strength to do it. Yeah. So and when I tell the story, it's also for recovery too. But I think that's times I've had some people say that is that about you? What am I supposed to do? Like, not tell my story and not recover? So you have to kind of have a good balance. There's challenges behind it. There's challenges behind the fact that I had anxiety during that time frame too, of the fact that, are we going to be able to make our budget? Are we going to be able to meet our obligations? A lot of people don't know that nonprofit work can take its toll on you, because you're asking people to give, and their dollar is a fruitful dollar, but it's also a cherished dollar. You have to use it wisely. So you have those things that I live with every day. Am I doing good things with those? Being a good steward of those
steward
dollars?
of the money, yeah. And not only that, I see a group of people that can latch on to you.
Yes.
And the expectations seem to never go down. They always go up.
And you always have to be on your game. And so I've had a lot of great people in my life, and a lot of people that have motivated and inspired me. I've worked with some great people. You know, Folds of Honor, you know, I worked with some incredible people. You know, United Way before that, Heart of a Lion, you know, Warriors for Freedom, and now Empower the Veterans. And so to me, all of those have been very powerful reminders of the great work that we've done. When you started out and said 200 million, you know, Folds of Honor has been an incredible institution for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my kids, and two of them are in college today because of them. I mean, so to me, it's organizations like that, or this Empower the Veterans now, that we're creating entrepreneurs because you had a vision for it. And you were there at the right time for me when you came to me and you said, you know, I want you to take this over and do something with it. Chad, like, I needed that at that time. You know, God sent you to me like that.
Can I tell that story?
Yeah.
I remember it was like it was yesterday. It was actually July of 2024.
Yeah.
I'm at my mom and dad's little lake place, and I see your number pop up. What's up, Major Ed? What's going on? Man, I need some prayers, Chad. And like I hardly ever hear you with that tone of voice. I said, man, what's going on, brother? And you said, well, some things have changed at JD and Major, the Heart of the Lion Foundation.
Yeah.
And you're like, really, what's going on? And he goes, well,
it's time to make a change. Yeah.
And I said, and he said, you said, I just need some prayers. And I said, well, Ed, I said, the prayer's just been answered. And you were like, what do you mean? I said, I've been waiting for the day that you'd call me and say, I'm ready to take this on full on with Empower the Veteran, because I've always known from the first day that we were just sitting there chatting about Warrior Folds of Honor and all the great work they're doing. And I could just see you just hung your head and you said, but that's great. But what about the warfighter? What about the guy that went or supported what I did? Those that were in the fob when I was bleeding out, and they were there to help me when I got to the next part of treatment. What about those? What about? And it never left my mind. And so here you are, and that's why I think this phase of what you're about to do. And I didn't really mean to get this quick into but I want you to talk a little bit about because you brought Warriors Rest to me. You said, Chad, you got to go see this place. I know what we're doing is good, but I would like to have a little more infrastructure to what Folds had in some of the golf courses and things like that. But the center that we're building here under this roof is powerful, man. I mean, what it can do for PTS and continued therapy through the point of where are you on the continuum of where life success is for you, right? As a veteran, if it's from off the streets, from being homeless, to housing, to a meaningful job, what does that look like? And what modalities do we need to get you there so that you're retraining the neural pathways in your brain to not be in that state of stress, anxiety, hypervigilance, to now, let's get you on the other side, brother, sister, where you're living again. And what are your thoughts there?
Well, that's a great segue, because I like what Brett is doing at Warriors Rest Foundation. I think that creating an atmosphere where organizations all come together to collaborate and inspire and motivate, but also do purposeful work for one another as organizations, whether it's in doing and creating a job opportunity for someone, to providing a mental health support to someone else, to providing peer-to-peer support, because that's a huge deal. That to me is the essence of what Warriors Rest is all about. And I love the fact that, when you look at their logo, I've always said their logo needs to be that bison going right into the frickin' storm, man.
That's right.
I like that. I like stuff like that. Like that to me, like that's where Cracker Barrel to me is inspirational, is to see an older gentleman sitting right there by that barrel. I mean, those are iconic things that I told somebody yesterday when they asked me about that, they're like, I said, would you ever change the logo on the Pittsburgh Steelers? No, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, or the Cowboys.
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's
that's
iconic.
star,
Or the
man.
Yankees. I mean, those never go away because
Right.
that's
They're
iconic.
evergreen. They're like evergreen, but they're every time
Established.
Yep.
Or Jesus on the cross. You know what I'm saying? Like that picture, that image. My point is that those are things that are inspiring. And for me, that's what Warriors Rest is all about, is those images of what an individual looks like when they go in, and that they may go into the academy or they may go into school, and then what happens when they get out.
Yep.
And how much trauma and change and all of the things that went along in maybe 20 years of service. And you're going to tell me that you're not going to honor that, and you're going to disrespect that, and you're going to, defund that, when these are the protectors on the front lines. And I'm sorry, but I know that there's also culture issues and things that happen on the streets that are negative, but that doesn't constitute the fact that the whole thing of our first responder community here at Warriors Rest is not about inspiring and motivating, but giving people not a hand out, but another hand back up,
That's
man,
right.
when they need it most.
That's right.
Otherwise, where would I be if I didn't get that hand up at that time of recovery?
And I think bringing the two groups together, because there's a lot of veterans and the first
Crossover.
responders.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot. So, but knowing that first responders don't get a lot of help if they're just strictly first responders. There's not a lot of help out there for them. So to be able to have each of them come under one roof, and if you want to be better,
Yeah.
it's going to be hard pressed for you to come in this facility and not be better. If you put your mind to it, if you truly want to get better and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, this is a facility that's going to be magnificent. And we hope that this is just one of hundreds of facilities all over the country. So I know, based on your early days with Folds of Honor and seeing how the chapters developed, and they're doing great work, and I don't think we're a conflict of interest. We're just an adjunct to what they're doing.
We are.
That your knowledge base on how that developed over the early years into what they are today, I think we have the makings of that right now, the bones of it and the vision of it. But it's going to take people like yourself to go out there and tell people the vision of what this is going to do. What do you see? I want to back up a little bit, because I always find this interesting. You were around Dan Rooney, and he had his handle. Which tell me what his handle was.
Noonan is his nickname. All of those pilots have a nickname. Mine actually nickname nobody knows. It was the Rock, Rocky Rock.
The Rocky Rock.
Rock.
I never
Rock
heard
steady,
this.
baby. I was always rock steady in the military. Everybody, even in high school, people called me Rocky Rock, Ed Rock. That's
Is this for first? Did you?
No, Mike Bean calls me that. Ed Rock. You've met Mike Bean at my golf events. He's known me the longest, and of course he's like Ed Rock, Rocky Rock. Just a cool guy, man. I have another gentleman that I got to tell you, a guy named Phil Good, man. Phil Good has been in my corner.
Yes.
When Phil,
I do know him.
Insurance guy. Man, he's been in my corner for a long time too. That's what I value. I value, man, during my recovery and during all of these years, because you were asking me about Folds of Honor, man, it's just been a great run to meet some incredible people in my life. And I could go on with just naming a bunch of different other people.
Oh,
too.
you've got a Rolodex for sure.
But it's been a very powerful thing, and meeting Dan and being involved with Folds of Honor was just it was something that I did, and I miss it. But in that same token, I got to find myself too, because you're right, man. The warfighter means a lot to me, and now it's just, what do I need to do to build this thing up? I wish John Daly and that whole group at Heart of a Lion the best of luck on their endeavors to support the Boys and Girls Club and to support great organizations that they're working on, but if it's Warriors for Freedom, which what they're doing is they're doing a thrift store now, or if it's Warriors Rest, bringing all these people together, man, that to me is what the American spirit of philanthropy is all about.
Yeah.
As great as these things were, this is where I need to be. I don't need all of the attention. I don't need all of that glamour. I just need to do things that are empowering and supportive of others. And that to me is what my daddy was telling me before he passed away. And that's what he told me when he came to see me is get back to, you know, the balls and the strikes and the things that got you here.
And I've never asked you this because you've never told me, but the anxiety that some of you were dealing with on some of the events and things like that, or when you do public speaking, are you anxious?
No.
Okay, so
that didn't bring speaking like that and being in front of people didn't bring me anxiety. What brought me anxiety was when you have other people's lives in your hands and you have to make sure that you have payroll and insurance and you have to abide by everything related to regulations and all of those things. I mean, I have a lot of respect for CEOs. I have a lot of look. Living the life that John has to live to be on all the time and to be all the, and then when I mean John Daly, I mean in the work that I done, I was able to see that how hard all of that is to be in that status or to be a Kid Rock or to be some of those people, even though they may channel things in a way that they want to channel their life into, you know, that there's a lot of people asking for things. And I was getting a lot of that. People were asking for this, for that, or somebody wants tickets for this, or they want to attend this event or that. And all of a sudden, you know, you can't make it happen. And if somebody tells you that you're basically less than something
a piece of garbage because you didn't do what they want them to do. And they say, well, give me a free ticket to, you name it. I don't go see Toby Keith or whatever. It's like, do you think they're free? Do you think that I just get 20 free tickets?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's taken away from the funds I'm raising. I'd love for you to come join it, but I see it myself that it's like, but I get a free ride, right? I'm your buddy, right? Like, and it's hard to say, we're raising money for people outside of this. This is part of the event, yes, but it's not free to get these tickets or to go golf or to whatever, you know? And so I can see it's a hard thing to do.
No, I don't think you need to do it. I think it was just part of the event portfolio. That was what we were all involved with. We did some incredible work with the Heart of a Lion, with Folds of Honor, specifically the work that we did on Heart of a Lion, helping people in, say, Colorado or helping first responders in Florida. I mean, those were purposeful things. Don't get me wrong. The deal is that, you know, it's not just about the drinking and the partying and all of those things. It's also about the purpose that we have and the passion that we have for what we're doing. And that becomes, that's a part of the mission. But the hardest part of the mission is to going out and asking someone to give to a cause and understanding that that takes a lot to do, man.
Well,
and that weighs heavy on you when you don't get the donation that you expect or your event doesn't do very well.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you know, you didn't meet the expectations of everyone, and that happens. And costs have gone up on everything. The pandemic had an issue with how we operate now because of what went down with prices, and so everything kind of has changed. And so, in everyone's defense, it's my story. It's what I've went through. But I can't tell you I didn't live with anxiety and this big boulder on my back. And now I just don't have that. I every day I get up and I do three things, Chad, in the shower. I pray at night before I go to bed. I pray when I get up in the morning, and I say, no more guilt, no more shame. I surrender to you, dear Lord. On one leg, in the shower, and that's what I do. And then I sit down on the chair and I bathe myself. But my point is that when I'm bathing myself, I'm cleansing myself in a way.
Yes.
And I know that's like kind of, I'm only bringing it up because that's my life now, man. And that's what I want. And like I said, I wish all of all the organizations, John with Heart of a Lion and Folds of Honor with Dan and Warriors Rest Here with Brett and Warriors for Freedom with Dwayne. The great thing about it is that I'm going to be able to go to sleep at night and say that I made a difference. And those organizations were empowering. And you know where it all started was United Way, a guy named Frank Merrick and Bob Spinks. And Bob Spinks took some time, and Frank Merrick is now passed, but Bob Spinks took some time to mentor me. And I owe him everything in life in the fundraising arena because he taught me about being an individual that would give people hope, that would do their best to be transparent, and then also at the end of the day, programmatically do something that would change someone's life.
Well, Ed, I can't thank you enough for coming here and being just, this was pretty real, man. Pretty raw. Some things I've never heard before. And I know with all of my heart that you're about to be, as your friend, the most impactful you've been in your life. And the next decade of your life is gonna pale in comparison to the first 3 decades.
Thank you.
I believe with all my heart. It took, as all of us men are, strong men, it takes a little bit of, getting your tail whipped, and God just finally going, are you done? Are you ready for me to help you out here a little bit? I mean, and I know you're there, and I know what we're creating here is going to be magnificent, only for the glory of God.
Well, I think, I want to ask you that because, when we met, we talked about the mission of Scars and the Stripes. And I think that look, I've lived with the scars from when I got hit by that bomb. It wasn't until then that some humbleness came to me. It was back then, it was kind of, it's about me a little bit too. People would say that now, but I'm telling you, man, I'm more humble than ever. Even though maybe people don't understand, like even when I post things on social media or promote someone on social media, man, I've always been a promoter. I've been like that since I was a kid. I've been addressing like this since I was a kid, man. My mom always instituted that. My father was Colombian. My mom was Puerto Rican. They taught us a lot. I have a great family. I have some great people in my life, great team, great people that I've met in the past. I've worked, like I said, with the John Daly's and Kid Rocks of the world and people like that, and Lee Bryce and my good friend Enzo.
John Rich.
And John Rich. I mean, I could go on and on with people that I've had some contact with, or, everyone's got their own personality. Everyone's got the way that they, their heart beats. But at the end of the day, I look at it as an experience too. Like, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I wouldn't have been able to see some of those things and then, hit the bomb and then go through some anxiety and work and then be where I'm at today, knowing that the other day I went to Life Church and saw Pastor Craig and all his staff together at a all staff meeting. And I sat there and I was just kind of humbled by the fact that, man, you know what? Not everyone gets to be in church, or not everyone gets to have spiritual being with them, or have God in their life around the world. And how fortunate we are in this nation that we're free to be able to express ourselves. So my thing is, you heard a lot today about my life, but I want to test us to be better to one another, to no matter where we come from, that we have to show love for each other, that we don't, negatively channel things that don't have purpose, that don't have a passion behind it, that are destructive. That to me is not the American spirit, and that's not where I'm at today. And I would challenge all of us that everyone matters and everyone has a heart. Everyone needs to be loved. And then everybody, it's not even about tolerance or acceptance or anything like that. It's about also delivering on the fact that we have to respect each other for who we are and what we're all about. And when we do that, we may not agree on everything, but we certainly can come to the table and break bread together. And that to me is what's missing, is all of us breaking bread together at the dinner table, no matter what it is, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and breaking bread and saying together, and I'm not saying it's not happening, but together we're going to make a difference. And this is the way we're going to do it, and we're going to do it for the greater good and not ourselves.
Well, Ed, Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
coming.
man. I needed to do that.
Well, it's always lively and it's always full of energy. And by the way, definitely take a look at the book. It's a great read. It tell you everything about your story, good, bad, and the ugly. And here you are, you're doing great things and continue to. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I love you, brother.
Thank you. And thank you for having me, and to Brett at Warriors Rest, and to you, congratulations on this podcast. And I got to tell you one last thing, man.
Okay.
Ty, you're teaching that young man a lot of good stuff about being a young man, of being an individual that is going to challenge himself in this dog-eat world. And I don't have a son. I have two great, beautiful daughters. My daughter Kinsley's at OU right now. I'm so proud of her, proud of Caitlin for graduating. But it's not even about, for me, college was important, and that's what that is all about. But for you, it's about being a father and an example. And so I want you to continue to be that example, because the reason we're here is because Ty had an inspiration and a motivation to do something purposeful and to bring us together. And look what we're doing, man.
Well, he's definitely a blessing, and I always look at, like, as a father, what can I do to involve all my kids, right? And Ty just fit perfectly in this. And my other son, Caden, is I always tell him, say, son, he's in the trades, and he's becoming a plumber soon, journeyman, and about to get his license. And so it's like, son, you're part of the family business, man. You're going to be the construction side, and you're building the foundation of the Watts family. Man, he's such an inspiration, man. Every morning I get up. So I told this on another podcast, but I'd get up in the morning. I go up on my front porch, and I pray, and I get my cup of coffee, and I read the Bible, and I talk to God. And every morning at about 5:30, here comes my son, and he's getting his coffee. He's drinking the coffee I made, but he's getting ready for work.
Wow.
And it's such an inspiration to see a young man every day, 5 days, 6 days a week, getting up and going and doing tough work every day. But that's the infrastructure and the backbone to America. Charlie Kirk, to the muscular class. I love that. The muscular class, man. But,
incredible story.
Brother, I love you. And I hope to see maybe Caitlin is the one that's just graduated, correct?
Yeah. She's working at First American Title. And then we're going to
bring... She needs to come over and work over here with us. She would be fantastic.
Well, and we're going to bring Benjamin Tubbs in, too. And Benjamin Tubbs is in real estate, man. He's got a great story, Marine. And that's how you do things, and you become an entrepreneur. And that's going to be a great story for us to talk about what he's doing to make a difference.
Can't wait to have him on.
All right.
Thanks, Ed.
Hoorah.